Just going to feel this feeling of afterglow, of receiving healing. It's incredible. And I really want to speak a little bit about my personal healing and ascension journey. I've just completed a session with my beautiful, beautiful healer, Patrick Dominguez. I met him through a mentor actually that I worked with several years ago. And we were talking about a concept actually towards the end of our session, which completely rang so true to me, because not only does it ring true for what I've been experiencing, but also being a healer and facilitator, I know for sure that when we're experiencing transformation, there is a level of amnesia that kicks in, because we suddenly become different human beings, we become different spiritual beings. There's something moving through, right, that shifts us so much that we actually completely forget who we were in the past. And I've definitely experienced this phenomenon on myself, where I've gone through so many different initiation moments. I've gone through so many different places of transformation and shifts and changes and readjustments and alignments and all the things, right? Where I now can really see how I can hardly relate to the person I was before. Like, I can definitely have a lot of compassion. I definitely feel, the changes, and I know that there's so much love that I feel for my oldest self, but I also know that there's definitely a level that is almost imperceptible. Like, I can't feel who this woman I was before really was. I can see her, I can acknowledge her, like her journey and who she's been, but I cannot actually really feel all the feelings that she was feeling and think all the thoughts that she was feeling. Like, all these patterns have literally fallen off of me and have actually created a sense of being, of liberation. And Patrick was really saying, well, this is really a blessing and a curse at the same time. It is a blessing because it's incredible how humans can really heal and transform on such a deep level, where actually they do transform forever. Literally, the healing occurs forever. You'll never be going back to those patterns ever again. You'll never be seeing life through the same lens ever again. You're never going to be living your life the same way ever again. And you're not going to be attracting the same people. You're not going to be receiving the same amounts of, just frustration or discord or disconnection. And it's a curse because we go into this amnesia, right? Where we sometimes forget the journey and the treading that it's taken for us to achieve and get to a new place. And of course, for healers, this can sometimes be a curse, because the clients actually completely forget what kinds of healing journeys they've been on. And sometimes, I've definitely seen this with clients coming in with an absolute pressing, urgent thing to resolve, and then they walk out and they can hardly remember who they were before, where it's like, wait, why did I come into your program again? And I totally get it. It's completely normal, because this new transcendent state of being has become so natural and normal that our brain just it just puts it in a drawer when it doesn't need to be opened again. And so a little bit more about my own personal healing and ascension journey. Really, it has been coming in waves. It's been coming in different layers and different pieces, and I'm sure that many women go through this, many humans go through this evolutionary phase, where in the beginning it feels like you're just treading through the mud and you're not quite sure what you're doing, and it feels awkward and strange, and you're losing balance and you're getting all dirty, and you're trying to help someone out, and then you realize, well, you're only sinking deeper into the mud. So, within the healing journey also comes the healing of understanding, your own personal journey and your own personal evolution, and understanding your relationship to another human's personal evolution and transformation. And so that relationship in and of itself creates healing too, right? Because in the beginning, very often I was just really worried about getting to know what my pattern was, getting to understand why I had these blocks, and understanding, the different ways of creating more consciousness about my own life, my own identity, my own spirituality, my own connection with soul, with my guides, with all the things, like, and even to a point where it almost, let's be really blatantly honest, it was just a pretty distraction from really living my human life, right? Because it just became almost like an entertainment, right? It became an entertainment of, oh, what other block can I now release, So I was really going into it also with this, playful state for sure, but also, yeah, definitely a level of complete distraction and, looking for blocks where there was no block whatsoever. I just had to take a damn decision and keep moving in the direction of alignment, and, leave a relationship and do what was necessary in order to create an environment that would actually hold and support my evolution, right? And sometimes we get lost in this nitty and gritty of like, I must have a money block because I don't know, I lost 5 pounds in the tube or something, and you're like, no, you don't have money blocks because you lost 5 pounds in the tube. You don't need to interpret stuff into this. You just need to be more careful and mindful about, where you put your stuff, right? So sometimes, sometimes it's a bit of a joke, this whole spiritual work that we do, where, when we're really looking at it from the lens of our soul and through the lens of, our ascended masters and our guides, it's funny, it's funny, it really is, because you're worrying about tiny little details that actually, even on the soul level, are completely irrelevant. Like, that's not really what is going to move the tide, like clearing a money block because you've lost 5 damn euros or pounds or wherever you are in the world, right? So, and I mean, there's also a level where this is totally connected to the society that we live in, where we're addicted to distraction and entertainment. It's an addiction, and we actually do it because we live in a deeply dysfunctional world sometimes. We live in a world that is not in full complete alignment to the highest version of humanity. We're living in toxic environments, we're living in toxic work environments, we're living in relationships that sometimes are not aligned, we're people pleasing, we're in codependency, we're dipping into all these dysfunctional terms, and of course we want to distract ourselves from that pain because it's damn painful, because we cannot always find the exit door, and we're just desperately looking for this exit door, and instead of looking for the exit door, we sometimes look for pretty distractions on our way. Or, oh, look, the carpet down here is so nice, right? So we're looking for tiny little things to keep us distracted from the fact that we actually need to seek for the exit door, right? And yeah, and so as I was having this conversation with Patrick at the end of our session, it just became so crystal clear to me that I've definitely evolved so much these past few years. I mean, gosh, like, when I really think about it, that I was writing down pages and pages of beliefs, and I was crossing them out and writing a new belief and all these things, where it's now it's just become a non-negotiable. Now it's something that I do like that, right? But at the time I needed to write it down because I had not yet processed that pathway. So sometimes it's also not that we're distracting ourselves, it's also that we simply have to practice, and we're beginners and we're going to be making mistakes, and we're going to be trying to heal people when we'll actually need the healing first. We're going to try to teach before we're ready to actually fully teach it from a place of embodiment. And this, by the way, is not at all a criticism, or it's not, to dismiss this pathway of the beginner in any kind of shape or form. It's just, that's the initiation. You go through the initiation of the beginner and in the intermediate level, and at all these levels there are things to learn and integrate. And we cannot leap into the mastery level without having gone through these initiation levels. Even though a human brain is going to tell us we're going to be the most amazing healer in the whole damn world, we're not going to, because we need to walk the slow path. And our ego doesn't like it. My ego definitely didn't like it. I wanted to become a healer like right away. And I think at the same time it's also a bit of our inner child coming up, like, wanting to be the grown-up already, like already yesterday, like the day before yesterday at best. and yes, and I think this is really what allows me to have so much compassion for my old self. This young Lizzie who was watching, I can't even remember her name now, I think it was Teal Swan at the time. Like every single week I was just like streaming on her videos, and today I'm just like, gosh, I really needed some more discernment back then. I was literally gobbling it all up as if it was the truth that, it's the truth, like the truth, excuse me, it's the truth. And I just needed to have more experiences, right? And, getting entangled in these spiritual circles where, people are here and doing the lovey-dovey flower power, singing 3 kumbayas and everything's going to be okay. Like, I've done that stuff, I've done the retreats where everybody goes and they're all crying, in their corners, and you're like, I can heal you. Let me help you. I've done it. That's why I can laugh about it. I can smile about it. And I know that for sure, we come from such good intentions that sometimes, our good intentions really stem from the mere sheer fact that we need to do the work ourselves. We need to go down the dirty mud, and we need to go in and release things on our own. And yeah. And so really things started to exponentially change for me when I actually really started to put my money skin on the line. When I really invested, like every single mentor that I invested in, I believe helped me so much more than watching free stuff on YouTube and trying to do the healing stuff all by myself. Like when I started to purchase those meditations packs by Joe Dispenza, and I was buying virtual retreats, retreat tickets. I was going to actual retreats where I actually had to pay for them, and it wasn't some kind of trade that I was doing. When I invested in actual mentors and masters who had done the work, who had done the teaching and the evolutionary work themselves, right, to embody the codes that they were actually teaching, and I was putting my own masculine energy, money on the line, like I want my money to support me with my spiritual evolution. That's really when I started to just like quantum leap, because let's face it, there's a level of integration that you will never achieve if you don't really put your skin on the line. Like we have to, it's just an integrity thing. It's an integrity thing. Like I know for sure and for a fact that I would never be able to give the live performances and the live talks and the actual programs and deliver the programs with such confidence at the time when I had never invested in receiving mentorship. Just no way. It was just out of integrity, out of alignment. And so I had to learn it the hard way, of course, right? And now having invested probably, I would say I'm probably coming very close to 6 figures, or maybe something around 60, 70 K worth in mentorship and programs and books and retreats. Oh my gosh, no, yeah, if I really count the retreats, I'll definitely be on the 100K. Like easy peasy, And it's not the fact that I've invested in it and that I want to, say, well, I put all that money on the side. It's just, no, I've invested because I knew deep down that I needed that alignment. I needed that alignment. I desired that alignment. I didn't want to come into my client sessions trying to wing it all the time. I needed to have proper teachings to portray and to, transmit. I needed to have walked through the own evolutionary growth myself, right? And that's very often the missing piece. It's really what makes us lack the substance when we're launching and creating our own personal healing programs, healing sessions, healing retreats. It's what's, the substance is what is missing, because it's missing our own divine masculine alignment, right? We have the divine feminine alignment where we're creating, we're, in the flow, and we're doing the things. But there's nothing like having your divine masculine straight, aligned, like trusting, this is the person, this is my next person, right? And also the level with which we invest is so important, because the first mentors I invested in was, I want to get as much knowledge from them as possible so that I can do this as well, right? So it was already investing with an end goal in mind. Or I invested, well, this person is going to save me and going to help me to scale to 100K months in 2 days. Like whenever I invested from that energy, I bet you stuff would just like go crazy, because my soul knew, like, it's like looking at a child, trying to play out the big world, when actually the substance still missing. And I think my soul was just gently, compassionately looking at me going, sure, you go ahead that way, but we're actually going this way, but sure, go explore that side, go for it. And when you hit a wall and you hit lack of success, or you hit things where it's just going to shape you back into, well, this is where we're going. This is where we were going all along. You could take your little spins and turns, but ultimately, you've got to be straight with your own evolutionary process, especially if you want to become, a healer or a facilitator yourself. It's just primordial to get good education, to get good mentorship, to get good counseling and healing, right? I mean, my depression didn't go away because my brother was listening to me every week. My depression went away because I started to work with a psychotherapist who was very skilled at her work, right? Like, there's a point where we have to acknowledge the fact that there are humans who are putting their whole life, in the force field of their divine gifts, right? They're putting their divine timing, their divine investments, their divine channeling, their energy, all of it, their life is put in the streamline of, this is my career for the rest of my life. And of course they are super skilled at what they're doing, and of course they deserve the highest compensation in the world possible, because they've invested their own masculine energetics into the system of supporting their work. And so it's nothing different for us, right? We're never going to receive true and proper transformation if I'm just asking in a forum about somebody's opinion on what kind of block you might have. I mean, yeah, you know what I mean. Yes. So our personal healing and ascension journey really depends on the strength and stamina that we can hold, and the strength and stamina that we commit to, and that we are willing to walk, into, even if the distractions and excuses, look prettier, but we still walk the other way, because we know that's the way we're going, and I'm going to do it with alignment, I'm going to do it with integrity, and this is in the highest and best way for me, for the clients that I'm going to be serving, for all the relationships that I'm weaving on the planet, right? So when I started to have this level of embodiment, truly what started to come into being was, yes, I healed my depression, right? I quit a toxic relationship dynamic. I opted for an abortion to liberate myself, right, and to liberate my life's work. And I just was able to make decisions from a place of clarity and crystal clear alignment, right? I launched my business from then on. My relationships changed. Like, there were friends that, I love them very much, but they were simply not in alignment anymore with the journey that I was going to walk into. And I had to accept that, I had to accept it. And one of the greatest blessings that has really come in for me was that my family is a deeply conscious family. I mean, my dad meditates every day. My mom meditates every day. They meditate every single morning. They meditate together. They're on a huge spiritually evolutionary growth journey themselves, right? And when I come in and I channel my granddad for the family, they're just right there, holding space, listening, tuning in. I mean, it's crazy. If you would have told me 15 years ago that I'd be channeling my granddad and my mom and my dad would be sitting there in the same room and they would totally receive it and totally consider it and talk about it with me and have an understanding and a blueprint of, seeing through what is really, really happening there, right? That I'm channeling important information for the evolution of our own family. That would be crazy. I'd be telling you, no, that must not be me. That must be somebody else that you're talking about, right? And here I am, on the other end of this incredible journey where I'm, experiencing levels of love and alignment that I never thought were possible, where, like every single day in my life is just a miraculous unfolding of like synchronicity after synchronicity, where it's just become my new normal. I mean, today I walked into this room, so I'm currently in Bulgaria, and I sat down on a little table right over there, and I sat down and I was listening to the beginning of a podcast that I've been featured in, and I was just sitting there, just literally listening to myself telling my own story, and like just in awe of the incredible journey that I've been on. And I look out of the window, and from where I was sitting, and I had not even noticed it, from where I was sitting I could see the window that's right behind me here, and there's actually the symbol of this hotel is a dancer. And I've been on this like dance journey, but these past 3-4 weeks I've been heavily working on opening my heart chakra on a deeper, expansive level. I look out of the window and I look, oh my gosh, like the symbol is a dancer. You'll have to go into my stories. I'll be posting that so you can see it. There's the figure of a dancer, right? And she has these breasts, and the breasts, like the way the outline is of the logo, looks like a heart shape. And I was looking at the window, and from the window, literally, it looked like the dancer was dancing in the sky, because I could see the blue sky in the background, and it had just been pouring down rain for the whole day, right? And I came in, it was pouring down, and after half an hour, I started to listen to this podcast, and the sky cleared, and the sun came through. So if the sky had not cleared, I would not have seen it, because the picture is actually like whitish, so I would not have seen it because of the clouds. But the moment I sat on that bench, I look out of the window and I see this dancer on the window, literally dancing in the blue sky. I mean, just tiny little things like this, and this happens to me every single day. Like, there's not a day that I don't wake up where this is actually happening, right? Like, symbology coming through, people coming in to tell me things that, how do they know? Me telling people things, and they're like, how do you know? Like, this is the reality that I live in, right? This is the focus and the lens that Spirit has been bringing into me. And this has all been a result of an accumulative process that I've been on, a personal healing and ascension journey that I've committed to, that I said yes to, that I aligned with, that I called into being, that I prayed for, right? And I'm living and breathing it in and out, like it's constantly moving and evolving, right? even the new pictures that I have with this red dress, I mean, the way that photo shoot came about was just totally mind-blowing. Like, it was totally unexpected. I had a vision. I knew I wanted to be on this beach with a black horse, wearing that red dress. It was going to be in Tunisia. In my mind, it was all playing out in a completely different way, and the way it aligned was just totally mind-blowing, right? Someone knew a person who had, a farm of horses, and then he also had contacts in a hotel where they could, hire a photographer for me just for that day. And I ended up paying peanuts for this photo shoot, and it was just magic. Even the sunset, the way it was a sunset where people would say, well, it's not really a nice sunset because, clouds and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, the pictures are gorgeous because it's exactly the light that I wanted. It's like, it's totally mind-blowing. Like, I feel like I'm living in a separate dimension. I feel like I'm actually living in a separate dimension, completely like on the edge of reality that I've known 15 years ago, right? And yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And I'm so excited because I'm launching Cosmic Goddess for the second round, and I really feel like I want to weave this in. Cosmic Goddess came in as a program to bless me. During the pandemic, it just like, boom, it aligned. It just came in and I said, okay, I'm going to trust this. Okay, you want it to be on this and this date, sure. I go and look it up, and then it's new moon in Taurus, I believe it was. And then I was like, okay, so what do you want me, like, Cosmic Goddess? I hear Cosmic Goddess, what do you want me to create, Spirit? Like, tell me. And then it just, boom, it came in, dance manifestation, boom, moon magic, boom, like feminine alignment, like all these things, it just like aligned all one by one, right? Teach the things you know how to do. Teach the things from a place of embodiment. Teach to know better. Teach to master. A few weeks ago, I was in a seminar with some entertainers, because we're like creating these seminars for entertainers to go through and to receive training and different levels of wisdom that they have to have in order to be with the kids in the hotels, and so that they have the best outline possible. And I learned the pyramid of learning, and so there's different ways on how you learn. There's actually a very specific how do you call it? Hierarchy. Yeah, a specific hierarchy of how we learn best, right? Like, what is the percentage level on where we actually learn and integrate the wisdom, not just to know it, but actually to really integrate wisdom. And so they had, the shapes of frontal teaching. They had the types of just auditive teaching, visual teachings, right? All these things, and then sharing. And the last one was teaching. So when you're actually teaching a subject, not only are you teaching the subject, but you're also learning at the highest rate. And it totally blew my mind, because I understood that this is why I've been receiving these programs. I've been receiving these programs that I could learn at the highest rate possible. So if I understand a concept and I know how to teach it, and I know how to weave myself through it and transmit it to another human, I'm actually receiving the highest alignment of teaching and integration. I'm learning at the highest speed. And this is probably also why so many of us are being called to teach, being called to heal, being called to show others how to live in different ways, because this is how we actually integrate wisdom and knowledge on the highest level. Can you imagine? This is totally mind-blowing. Right? It explains that, frontal teaching, like receiving, like having a teacher in front of you telling you how it is one thing, but the way you integrate knowledge the most is when you know how to teach it. Because not only do you know how to absorb it, but you also know how to give it, and you know how to respond to what is being given back to you as a feedback. So you have this loop, and it's a cyclical communication. Because every time you're teaching something, you're learning something else, and then you're giving it to a student, they're giving you feedback, right? So you're actually looping constantly in this cycle, and you're learning something new every single time. This is why women come back into my programs. They want to come in for the second round, they want to come in for the third round, they want to come in multiple times over. Especially going through a program live completely changes the dynamic of just doing a self-study course. It has nothing to do, the dynamic is completely different, because every single time you'll have other women coming in joining the programs. Every single time you have a new energy that is being set into motion. Every single time I have evolved as a teacher and mentor, so of course I'm going to be bringing that to the table, and it's just incredible, because every single round is going to be like a dance. You will see it today, you will never see that dance in that exact shape and form ever again. Ever. Because the dancer might not be exactly on that position of the stage, the light might be a little bit different, the people might not start at the same time, they might not have the same synchronistic rhythm that they keep. There's something that changes the energetics, and even your own state of being that you bring in completely changes the way that you absorb something. So if you've been on an evolutionary growth phase in your life for the past year, then I highly invite you to come back into Cosmic Goddess and take it a second round, because you will not be the same person, and so you will not receive the program on the same level. It's just virtually impossible, right? You'll be able to take that wisdom deeper. You can go a layer down, right? It's not a level up. You can take it a layer down. This is why we do this journey of healing and integration and ascension, because we cannot rise and ascend without going down. It's like balance in dance. You cannot rise without being aware of what is rooting down in you. The most beautiful balances are made of rooting down as much as the elevation. Is actually you're pressing the floor in order to elevate. You have to go down in order to go up. It doesn't work in any other way. You have to apply pressure into the depth of your roots in order to receive the magic of growth. It's profound. Changed my life. It changed my life. Going down into the healing, going down into the groundwork, going down into the basics, going down into the initiation every single time, building it from a structure. Having a strong foundation as a structure is so important. It doesn't matter how many times you do things over and over. My battery is running low. Doesn't matter how many times you do things over and over, you'll always rise higher. Always. So my loves, this was my little testimony of my own personal healing and ascension journey. I hope you enjoyed it. I could not see your comments for any of this time, so I'm hoping that I'll get to your comments later. And yeah, it's fascinating. So I'll definitely be sharing the dancer on my stories. And if you'd like to tune in to the podcast that I've done with Emily, like the podcast is called Em Makes Money. Yeah, just go and click my stories on Instagram. You'll find the link. And I'll probably post it down here as well if you want to listen and tune into it. And we're talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, which is really amazing. It's definitely one of the concepts that I teach in depth in all of my programs, because this is wisdom that we just have to know. We have to know how to go deeper into our healing so that we can ascend higher. It's a non-negotiable. And every time we ascend higher, there's a level of that is required of us, of sinking deeper as well. Sinking deeper into our trauma, sinking deeper into our grief, sinking deeper into the things that have been misaligned. Actually really going into the depth, the core of, where you're stemming from. So every level of ascension requires you to root deeper. And so if you're curious, and if you've been feeling like, oh my gosh, like Lizzie, I want to go into this, like I feel now is the time, like my heart is opening, I'm feeling the calling, you're invited to come in and join Cosmic Goddess for the second round. It will be a 6-month program this time around, so not 3 months, but 6 months. And it's a hybrid program, so you'll receive all the trainings and all the recordings and all of that. There will be group intensives that we will have together, and there will also be one-to-one mentoring with me. So the way I'm really seeing and sensing it is that the first 3 months will really be the wisdom that you'll be receiving, and the different intensives in a group setting. And then as we move through the program, we will go more into one-to-one work together, and we will always have the group facilitation as well, because I feel that the dynamic of groups are so powerful. And yeah, it's made for 8 goddesses. We're starting on the 8th of the 8th, so the 8-8 portal, which is the Lion's Gate as well, and new moon in Leo, which, you know, is absolutely phenomenal. Like, how does the new moon actually fall onto this Lion's Gate portal? I mean, it's huge. And that it's also an 8-8 portal. That is absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, if you're feeling the pull,